Oh, okay. So we're live. Sorry for the delay. I wasn't expecting to have power outage 1 hour before my defense. So defending my thesis is a geophysical model of a copper moly porphyry deposit in Hillsboro, New Mexico, known as Copper Flat. This is the outline of what I'm going to be speaking of. First, we're going to see the problem, an introduction to Copper Flat, that's the history and the location. Also, I'm going to talk about the regional geology and the geology of the deposit, the structures, mainly being the faults and the breccias in the deposit, an introduction to geophysics and the previous work done there, data acquisition and analysis of that data, the modeling and interpretation of those models, and the conclusions.
Can you move the writing? Doesn't matter that place is over there. Because I can assist out there.
So, the objective, the purpose of this study is to analyze two anomalies found in previous geophysical surveys over there, because there was not really a defined solution or knowledge of what was causing these anomalies. And we're talking about anomalies that are more than 1 kilometer deep in extension. So the IP studies that they did never really had a coherent story of what was happening there. History. The Copper Flat mine first historical knowledge of being a mine was in 1877, but it was major placer gold people with the gold rush coming into the area and taking all the gold that was there in the rivers and streams. Between 1877 and 1911, the gold rush came and go, and it started being recognized as a copper deposit. From 1911 to 1931, there were some copper small mines there, nothing major, until 1974. After several studies, it was recognized as a copper porphyry deposit, and it was acquired by Quintana Mineral. This was the first company that really wanted to make a mine out of the area. It started to set up production in 1882. That's the mining production. Unfortunately, after 3 months in operations, copper prices dropped, and they had to close everything, dismantle the whole thing, and sell to get as much profit as they could with everything they had. From 1982 to 2010, the property changed hands a lot. There was a lot of companies interested, but unfortunately, Copper Flat has a lower grade copper. So to make a profit, it has to be good copper prices. In 2010, it was acquired by TMAC through their subsidiary, New Mexico Copper Corporation, and they started to do a plan. The mine was set up to start production in 2014, but again, copper prices fell, and it's put on hold right now. Location, well, Copper Flat is located right here where the star is. It's 185 kilometers from El Paso. It's near the town of Hillsboro, but the major town close to it is Truro Consequences, that is 30 kilometers east of the property. Regional geology. Well, Copper Flat has some interesting geology. It was created by magmas done by the Farallon Plate subducting the Americans Plate, and this part is part of the Sonora Slab segment of the Farallon Plate. The deposit is north of the American Craton. The base and range is right here to the east. The Colorado Plateau is northwest. We actually have the Rio Grande Reef to the east of the deposit, and we have a horse and gravel right in the middle to where the deposit is. It is also part of what is known as the Arizona, Sonora, New Mexico Copper Belt, and to be more exact, is part of the Santa Rita lineament, along with Chino and Morenci. There are mines in production right now, and it's from a late Cretaceous age.
So when you say lineament, this is unclear in the text. You're saying It's a lineament of copper.
Yeah, of copper mines and deposits.
Okay, so there's a lineament. That's what that is. You need to be clear on.
Well, it's a structural feature too.
I would just like clarification.
Okay. Then we have some of the local geology. This area is known as the Animas or Hillsborough Mine District, and is predominantly formed by stratovolcanic geology. It's dominated by andesites and dikes and volcanoplastic rocks. We have two main intrusions affecting the andesite volcano here. It's the Copper Flat quartz monzonite and the Warm Springs monzonite. The Warm Springs monzonite was intruded after mineralization. The Copper Flat monzonite is the one that carries the most of the mineralization in the area. So if you can see this orange line right here, that's where the deposit is. The thickness of the andesite surrounding the quartz monzonite tell us that it was a caldera complex that was eroded over time. And now more in the local geology. The green thing right here is the quartz monzonite, and at the center of the quartz monzonite we have some breccias right there, and the breccias are really important part since it hosts the mineralization in the deposit. We have some examples of the rocks right there. We have the biotite breccia. This is how the quartz monzonite is, and we have the feldspar breccia in the corner. Breccias, as I was telling you, the breccias are really, really, really important for the deposit. Basically, the breccias hold more than 50% of the copper. So for the studies they've been doing, the breccias are really important. It's the highly mineralized area, and it was produced by auto-brecciation. When the fluids were coming in, the pressure created these two types of breccias. And normally we have two or three types of breccia depending who you ask or what literature you're reading. We have a quartz feldspar breccia that, depending on the amount of quartz, is called quartz breccia or feldspar breccia if it has more feldspar. And we have the biotite breccia. The biotite breccia is really important because it carries chalcopyrite, and chalcopyrite in this deposit is the one that's carrying most of the copper. Faults. Well, faults are important since they bound the copper flat stock. Right here we have the Hunter fault that goes northeast and cuts the whole deposit almost in half. We have the Pattern and Green faults that are parallel to each other. It's the Pattern fault that starts in the middle of the deposit and goes all the way east, and the Green fault that is more or less kind of a boundary of the south of the stock. We have the Olympia fault and Lewin fault. They also do parallel each other. Here at the northwest. It's important where we're finding the anomalies. That's why I'm going into it. Previous works, this is where it gets really interesting. While I was doing my research, I could find that there were some works during the 80s. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the whole report. I only found pieces. So I couldn't see if the other people have found those anomalies. But Quantum Geophysics did a survey in 2010, and they did 5 lines covering 24 kilometers around the deposits. They use a machine that they have that is unique called Horion 3 that does industrialization, direct current, and magnetotellurics at the same time. So they save a lot of time. During this report, they produce some profiles. This is a magnetotelluric profile. It goes 3.5 kilometers deep, and it goes around 8 kilometers wide. For the deposit at Copper Flat is really shallow and can be seen here between those 2 lines. And we can see the 2 anomalies that I was talking about previously, one here at the south and one here at the north. The deposit in all of these models where some of the data was taken out to reduce the size of the deposit because they really what were looking for were for alterations that will tell them what if there was more copper. IP files, again, they did the same. The deposit is right here in the middle. It's a little bit small, but we can see the south anomaly of IP1 being this huge block right here, and IP5 at the north of the deposit. So after they did this study, the company thought that they have found something new, that they were going to hit the mother lode. I was working at the mine at the time. We drilled IP5 in an angle of 35 degrees. It was going to cut right through here. We took out the core. Nothing was there. There was no mineralization. It was the same. Only two things were found that were really interesting. One, they have more pyrite at this area. And second, we found cyanide in this part. And this was thought to be eroded. So there was no record of that as part of the structures, and everybody thought it was eroded when the caldera was under this process. So, taking that into consideration, I asked the company for permission to see what these two anomalies were really when, and I did a gravity survey. We had six lines of working, and we took a lot of points outside the line to type our map as far as we were permitted to, and it was possible to carry the equipment up because gravity equipment is heavy. And after taking 140 points, we produced 10 maps. This is the absolute gravity map. And we can see right here the deposit. This map was changed. The deposit is shown as a gravity high, and the anomalies are shown as gravity lows. But the interesting thing that I did was that I did 3 grading techniques: minimum curvature, triangular irregular network, and kriging.
So where are these? So the point was trying to go after what these anomalies are. So where are they on those anomalies?
This will be the south anomaly, and this will be the north anomaly, right here. And minimum curvature, I use minimum curvature because it gives me the smoothest surface possible, so that will reduce all the topo noise that these maps will produce. Triangular irregular network, it's a nearest neighbor grading technique that takes all the points and start doing some triangles. And kriging, well, it's a statistical method that does basically almost the same that triangular irregular network, and it's the standard of gravity mapping. With this, 10 maps were produced, and each of these maps were divided into 3 parts, being the first one, complete boogie anomaly. This is the standard for gravity mapping in the mining industry. And when we did the first model, we could see what I was expecting for. I saw the north anomaly, the south anomaly, and the deposit as a gravity low. Then we did residual gravity. Residual gravity basically takes all the noise of the shallow structures. And I did these types of map basically because I wanted to see if there was some deep structures beneath the deposit that may alter what we were seeing. And as you can see here in the south anomaly, there's this big anomaly after I removed the noise from the shallow structures. And finally, we did free air. This is normally free air, it's only a height correction, but more and more it's being used for companies to do free air maps to see the changes in height and do corrections. And again, I found the same things, north anomaly or south anomaly or deposit, and we see a gravity low right here near the north anomaly. After producing those maps, I decided that the best way to go was a Kriging map of the complete Bouguer anomaly, mostly because it's the method used more and it has more reliability, and also because the software I was going to use to model uses only complete Bouguer. So we created 4 profiles. Since we didn't really want to see the deposits, since the deposit has been studied and we know the parameters of them, I wanted to see the anomalies surrounding it. So we did 4, A prime going to the east, B prime going in the south anomaly, and C going to the west side, and we did D prime. D covered a gravity low that I thought was the cyanide body. Also, to make the weight of the geology, we use historical drill data and new data collected from 2011 to 2013, right here to correct our models. And 2 types of models were done. One was the Talwani models that let us do geologic bodies and measure observed gravity. And after those models were done, we did some we did to model to do a 3D model later on.
I have a question on this.
Yes.
So the IP1, IP5 are the anomalies, right?
Yes.
Was it physically impossible to get further north and further south?
Yes, it was, because it was outside the property, and the owner of those the surrounding it's against the mine, and he likes to shoot people, literally.
Okay, so you couldn't quite surround the source, right?
No.
So why didn't any of your cross sections include any?
Well, I only took the site where it started because I didn't have enough data outside the range of the.
Understood,
Yeah.
but you could capture just a hair of it, right?
Yes.
So, but you're not including any of it. The way I'm reading this,
Mhm.
am I off?
Well, the original lines were a little bit longer, but at the edges we couldn't rely on the information. So the
So in other
models I
words,
did,
You couldn't get the data because of
yeah,
your.
we
you don't like
did.
it shot.
I did the
Yeah, but this
lines
is
longer.
not worth your
Yeah,
life. You're just talking about that.
and
And
the
number
problem
two-
at the edges were
You
the.
can't model it.
Yeah, I couldn't model really. It was really unreliable. It was showing me some points that were really, really, really high. And I'm talking about. One was like 2 milligauss, like off from the rest of the readings. And that was one of the. Yeah.
Okay.
And other part of the problem was that there's a lot of mine workings there, and they weren't covered to the time. So we needed to. I knew where some of the shafts were, not all of the shafts. So the company only gave me permission to go some of the points. So the first profile is A prime. Sorry. And
Go back a second. So we're talking about.
we're talking about this line right here. And there was not really anything different from what I was expecting, with the exception of the inclusion of the alpha cyanide body. We did a model without cyanide and one with cyanide. When we removed this or observed and calculated gravity were way, way off. After the inclusion of this body, we could match closer. It goes from a north-south direction, and around here is where we see the south anomaly. We don't see it. That's the really.
At 2.4,
Mhm.
I have difficulty thinking you can kind of get a a body that narrow and sinuous, kind of going from, what is that, a kilometer to the surface. And how can you, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Well, we did change the thickness of the body. One of the problems is it only worked with this section, only we narrow it. After we widen it, it starts shooting everything up. So I wasn't.
I think the question is, do you need it there? Can you just like remove it and then just lower the other bodies on the left? So instead of 2.6, you know, use 2.55, that was 2.5, 2.55. Without that 2.4 there, do you have any reason to have it there?
Well, it's part of the breccias. It's a known body. That's why I included it there.
Okay.
I never
So
thought
you're saying
about just taking it off.
Okay, so now, so
That's what.
if you can correlate it with a breccia, then, oh, it's acceptable, absolutely.
So
See, I didn't understand. that.
Okay,
So it's fine. You just need to say, this 2.4 represents suppression to this. So
So
you're describing the model, right?
So you have included some geological interpretations to
Yes.
help you with this.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, the only reason that could be right is if there's a breccia.
yeah, there's a breccia and it's a small
You got it.
part of the breccia.
Go on.
And then this is where we change to the polygon. And we can see the cyanide body, and we see the breccia we're talking about right here. And the black square in the middle is the center of the deposit. You're going to see this along the polygon profiles.
With black square. Okay, got it.
And again, from profile BB, that's around in the south part, like around the map. Along here, it has an east-west direction, and it does shows the north anomaly, and it's around here. So around here, and as we come to the west, we see a little bit of change right here in the density of the deposit, and as we can see in the polygon profile, it's a little bit more scattered, the colors around here. We have the south anomaly here, going from here to here, and we see the anomaly that was south the west at the end of the profile. This was basically, this is the only profile that really goes along one of the anomalies completely, but it's only the edge of the anomaly, and we couldn't go further down. Profile CC, this
So,
was
just for clarification, these are the Talwani profiles.
Yes,
the
this is
ones
what
on polygonal.
Polygonal. Yes.
Okay, so those are two different approaches that you're taking. Okay.
to this. And the west, this is the west profile going right here. This profile, it's almost at the edge where the quartz monzonite start, the contact between the quartz monzonite and the andesite, and we were expecting really to have any changes in the geology around here. And as you can see, it was pretty normal densities, and in the polygon profile we only have this gravity load that is along one of the faults in the system. Now DD, this profile rounds not at the top, not at really north, but almost at the center, and it does crosses where I think the cyanide body is, and it has a northwest southeast direction. And here the important part is also crosses the areas where there was highly concentrations of pyrite, and we can see right here it goes all the way to 3.1 or density, and we included the cyanide body.
But you've got 3.1 bodies right
Yeah.
next to each other.
The two breccias right there had highly concentrations of pyrite, so I played it with the pyrite numbers, added to the breccia's densities, and this is the thing that got worked, because our calculated before we added the pyrite in this area was way low right here. After
So what
we
you're saying is that you have two bodies with equal densities.
densities.
So in other words, you don't need that boundary.
Well, again, the boundaries were made because of the bodies, because they're different
Right,
branches.
and you switch
Yeah.
them to be equal at
Yeah.
the end. I get that. Your final model shouldn't have that line. Whether it's there or not,
No, no,
okay, you
yeah.
put the body, that's okay. But in your final model, you should probably not include that line. Right.
And I didn't color the Taiwanese profiles because Taiwanese give you really bright colors and it assigns a different color to each of the bodies, and some of them are the same geology. It will be more confusing to have that. And as we can see, right here we have this gravity high, and we have the two gravity lows along it. So after doing these 4 profiles, the next step was doing a 3D model. We put it all the planes together to catch it using a Plouffe technique that basically calculates the gravity effect on a 3D model to prepare these polygon planes to be graded on 3D. And then a least square algorithm was used to start filling up the space between each of the planes. And we interpolated those planes. The problem with interpolation is that it didn't really give us a full block to work with, and it was like KB, like this is a KB, and here it's a KB. So we extrapolated the block, and this was the result. The problem with the full extrapolation block is that this part right here is extrapolating at the edges where we don't have real data. And as you can see here, you can see 4 squares here that were put. The deposit is shown as a gravity high, and our 2 anomalies are as a gravity low. So the square was segmented right to the half, and we saw what we were expecting. I don't know if you can see the points right here. And we saw our south anomaly as a really high. We're talking about 3.1. We have our deposit right here, and we have our north anomaly. After analyzing all the information, I came with some conclusions. The first one, the ore body is a gravity low, but the most important thing is the south anomaly. I interpret it as the junction of the Geert and Han faults, and the north anomaly, I set it up as 2 things. One, the cyanide body presence there that was never identified before, and the increase of pyrite in that particular area. For the south anomaly, there may be more studies to be done, since the residual gravity showed that there's a big structure underneath the background of the deposit. Any questions?
I think your presentation was very good. I think that you need to put your results in context of previous results or something like that. I think you need a discussion section in your thesis. I'd like to see sort of like how the logic of why you interpret it. Is that you concluded, but you didn't discuss how you got to the conclusion.
Yeah.
I'd like a discussion section that basically says, okay, based on this evidence, I'm doing X, Y, I make this assumption, and blah, blah, blah. And just a little clearer what that is. All your figure captions need to be sort of like much clearer. There's figures, and then even your figures here are beautiful compared to the document. They're like different sizes and like that. Those are the 2 big things. Just discussion section and figure captions for me. Otherwise, I think it's a nice piece of work. Understanding like what needs to come out is like why you didn't go beyond. I mean, that's a clear. There's nothing you can do about that, right? And so you need to say, this is the best I can do because I couldn't survey on on private property, and stuff like that. So I think it just needs to be clarified a little bit more in the document itself, but other than that, I think it's, you did a very nice job presenting.
One thing that I think would help also is, like, for example, when you were going through your presentation, you said a couple of times, maybe 3 times, you said, and we found here what I expected. And it's like, okay, so how come you expected that? So you probably part of the discussion is to say exactly that. I expected this because of whatever. And along the same lines, it's like, we found this, like, you go to your conclusions when you say, well, we found this new thing, right? And you expect it, or we have heard about it. You have to expound upon that.
Okay.
Yeah, so to say, why does it matter?
Discussion section.
Why would it matter? And minor point though is maybe you want to get once it's done, technically done and everything, just get it reviewed by writing center here, so that some English major can go through it and figure it out a little bit. Not a major deal, but you've done so much work, and that if you get a little bit of publishing, really make it more robust, at least from the point of view of people that are like and so I go through it like, what
You want this to be a
what about
document
that?
and to present to the company, whatever. I mean, I think he's right. There's some typos and stuff like that. Not critical. Like I said, I think I enjoyed your presentation much more than document. So, and because you were able to express a little bit better here what your thinking was, and it was kind of a little hard to understand that. So if you can capture what your presentation and put it in this document, you're good to go.
I think there's also kind of it's one early on kind of your objectives. I mean, in your mind, you're thinking of the Quantech, the 2 Quantech anomalies, and you're trying to see what's there, use your methodology to see what's there. But also, I don't think you emphasize in the ore deposit yourself. You're lucky that actually this is all drilled out. We know this target. We know where the goodies are. And the Quantech anomalies are there too. I think you emphasize too much the Quantech anomalies, and you should also do, hey man, here's this deposit, and I like kind of as a final synthesis, kind of into what are the properties of the Quantech anomalies, and what's the properties of the ore body. So you can give kind of a
discussion. Yeah, that's a
just a
discussion.
little, like a little matrix or something like that, and the Quantech anomalies and then geophysical properties. And I think there's a couple diagrams where you look, here's the deposit, there's an anomaly, then you've got this, the blue spots adjacent to it. I mean, actually, it looks like you're really seeing something that is very important, and there is one other blue spot. Maybe there's something, maybe you have found kind of another deposit, but so think about it a little bit more broadly.
Well, and I think a discussion section would help that. And I agree with you're pointing out some things, but there's other anomalies on there that you didn't mention at all.
Maybe you found something, right?
Yeah.
So you don't emphasize that.
And so, again, you can bring that out in discussion, what the possibilities are. You don't have to, it's not like you have to reinterpret everything. I'm not saying that. You need a discussion about, okay, well, there is something on here on the whole lot, and, that could be X, Y, and Z. It's all arm waving, but it shows, number one, that you recognize there's something else on there. You're addressing the 2 targets that you really want to do, right? And so that's the big thing in the discussions.
Would you drill any more holes?
And so if the company were to say, yeah, and what would you base that on? So think about that. So you need a couple of pages on this at least, I would say, and to finalize the document. I think you're fine as far as the pen.
Yeah. But and you've got the fun stuff. See, this is what you've got to finish up. This is the fun stuff. It's all the churning through the data is all done.
Yeah, that is the fun stuff. I mean, right now it's all open to interpretation of why you're interpreting. Right? And no one's going to challenge you on that. because this is your interpretation. They can come with their own, right? But as long as you justify it and say, this is what I'm basing this on, based on the cores, based on the geology and blah blah blah, I interpret this body as blah blah blah. And that's it. You're done.
Yeah, so a couple of things is that, like in your opening sentence for the answer, you said that, you're doing exploration of new resources, and maybe what Bill was talking about here are some of those new resources. So I found this, blue spots and whatever, and they suggest, X or Y, whatever, right? And the other part is, like, when you said that, you did that, that drilling, and then the core came back, like, empty with respect to what you expected, it's like, what happened? So, and is your study kind of explaining part of what happened? Not, it doesn't have to explain everything, but and then what
Well,
you
I
also said
do-
is like we do somewhat.
I do mention the cyanide body, but maybe I need to expand on that. That was the only major difference.
But you
The
sound
children.
kind of like you came up empty-handed with respect to what you expected, to get out of it, right? And like, what happened? How come you ended up empty-handed? And how can you see anything in your study that kind of relates to that? It's like, if we had to drill something else, I would suggest drilling in this direction or this direction, because when we did this, look at what happened. But with my study, I can see that there's potential for something here.
And I would, so for part of this, I see kind of a table that would summarize the stones. I mean, they're brown and brown, and you've got blue dots and things. There's some of these patterns that I think are, you don't make enough of your conclusions. No, it's a classic four-phase, just tilted over a little bit from the tilting of the Graben block. And, it's interesting.
I don't remember anything about your recommendations for future work in this, and I don't know if it is customary to say something along those lines.
Yep.
But what would you suggest? Based on how far you were able to take it, you say, oh, I wish I could do a PhD on this, and I will do this next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's $100,000 to drill some holes.
exactly, yeah.
It's kind of true. Like again, it goes back to the discussion. It's all stated sort of. And you were throwing a lot of stuff out there. And I don't expect it to all be captured in that. But the point is that you need some paragraphs. So these particular things, and it's like you're right. If the company would say, okay, so where do I drill? Would you say no, don't drill? Which is a possible recommendation. But think about that when you're writing this, because that will help you justify it.
And I'm glad that this study is not going to get lost like the previous ones. Right?
No, because this is exceptional opportunity that you know where the target is. Here is the deposit that's determined by drilling. What are the properties of the deposit? Okay, good deal, man. Congratulations.
I want to do some acknowledgements. I would like to thank Joey, Martin, and Guillermo. Are not here, but they helped me carry out all the equipment. It's a photo at the pit lake at Copper Flats. To my committee members for being here, and Bill, that it's, I don't know if he's watching online. He was busy, but that's why I'm recording it. To Team Agro Resources to give me the opportunity. To all the organizations that gave me the opportunity to present this research in SME, SEG, PDAC, and among others, to Tara, Christina, and Ibrahim, and everybody else that made this year that fun, to my family, and finally to Phil. You were amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's at the, that's at, down at,
That's Palmarejo.
Could we
Owens Palmarejo?
Yes.
excuse the?
Can I just ask one
No,
quick question? I don't want to put you on the spot, but not knowing gravity and mining, what do you think those anomalies might be? And what would the mining company like them to be? I mean, is there something that it could be?
Well, the mining company wanted to be high-grade copper.
Okay.
along those lines to expand the pit.
Mhm.
They were planning on the salmons to be more mineralized so they could expand. And I think they're just, as I said, it's the faults because there's a lot of faulting in the deposit that cross cut. So it's not only the two main faults cutting, it's small faults cutting at the same point. So I think it's mostly structural.
You sure that isn't the shafter?
I'm not really sure.
No, there's no shafter. No? I think it was in the back room there. Shafter, because- Good deal.
Right.
This is excellent.